Welcome to Cryptid Monologues. Let's dive into a world where myths meet imagination. Here we unravel chilling tales of cryptids, Bigfoot, Wendigos, dogmen, skinwalkers, and more. These stories are crafted to ignite your imagination. These stories are purely fictitious, and names and/or events are purely coincidental. If you like these kind of stories, please give a like and subscribe. Click on the notification bell to stay up to date. Thanks for listening. Let's get into it. Whispers at Crescent Lake. The fog rolled low over Crescent Lake, curling like smoke through the towering evergreens of the Olympic Peninsula. The water was still, a dark mirror beneath the jagged peaks of the surrounding mountains. Locals said the lake was bottomless. Some said it held secrets. Elena had come to the lake for solitude, escaping the noise of Seattle after her brother's disappearance. He had been last seen near here, hiking alone. The park rangers found his camp, his boots, but no trace of him. Tonight, she sat at the edge of the shore, wrapped in a wool blanket, staring across the silver surface of the lake. The moonlight revealed nothing, only the vague outlines of trees and the silent ripple of water. Then she heard it, low, rhythmic thumps, like something heavy moving through the forest behind her. Not an elk, not a bear, something slower, intentional. She turned, heart thudding. The trees stood still. But something was there, she could feel it watching. The thumping came again, now closer, mixed with the crack of a branch underfoot. Elena backed away toward her truck, eyes scanning the shadows. That's when she saw the figure. It was massive, easily 7 feet tall. Broad shoulders, long arms that hung almost to its knees, covered in dark, shaggy hair that caught the moonlight in streaks of silver. Its eyes gleamed amber, unblinking. And then it spoke, not in words, but a deep, resonant hum that vibrated in Elena's chest. Not threatening, not hostile, sad, almost pleading. She stood frozen as it slowly stepped forward, then reached into a weathered satchel slung across its shoulder. From it, it pulled a red bandana, torn and faded, her brother's. Elena stared at the bandana in the creature's massive hand. It fluttered slightly in the wind like a flag of surrender, or a warning. Her breath caught in her throat. "Where did you get that?" she whispered, barely able to speak. The creature tilted its head. Its eyes glowed faintly, like coals in a dying fire. Then slowly it turned and began walking into the trees. It didn't look back, but Elena followed. The forest swallowed them both, shadows dancing around her as they moved deeper than any trail should allow. Branches arched overhead like ribs in a cathedral, moss draped from trees like ancient curtains. The creature didn't speak again, but Elena felt a constant pressure in her mind. Emotions, images, flashes of memories that weren't hers. A place of fire, a gate, screams echoing in a distant, unseen place. They came to a clearing where the trees opened around a massive stone ring half buried in the forest floor. Runes glowed faintly along its edge, pulsing like a heartbeat. The creature stepped aside and looked at Elena, expectant. "You want me to go through," she said aloud, voice trembling. It wasn't a question. A gust of cold air spiraled out from the ring as if the forest itself exhaled. And then she heard it, his voice. "Elena, help me," her brother. She stepped forward. As her foot crossed the ring's threshold, the world bent. The forest dissolved into a cascade of color and sound, screaming winds, swirling lights, and the roar of ancient voices. Then silence. She stood on the edge of a different world. The sky here was green and filled with floating islands. Trees grew upside down. Time didn't feel right. And at the center of it all, rising like a dark tower, was something ancient. Something watching. Bigfoot stepped through behind her. Not a beast, not a cryptid, a guardian. 3 weeks earlier, Caleb arrived at Crescent Lake just as the sun was slipping behind the jagged ridge of Mount Storm King. He liked to hike alone. Too many people dulled the magic of the woods. That's what he told Elena every time she raised an eyebrow at his solo treks. "I'm not escaping," he'd say with a grin. "I'm searching." He didn't say what for. His journal, leather-bound and weather-worn, had become a map of dreams. Scribbled sketches of old symbols, local legends, and whispered stories from rangers and elders in Forks. One name came up over and over: Selswyam, a word the Quinault elders spoke rarely and with caution. The Hidden Walker. He thought it was Bigfoot at first, just another cryptid myth. But the more he read, the less it seemed like folklore and more like a warning. A guardian spirit said to appear at the threshold of worlds, a protector and a jailer. On the second night of his hike, Caleb camped at the lake's northern edge, where the forest grew thick and old. The air smelled different there, charged. The animals were silent. He found the first symbol carved into a standing stone near the water. It matched one from his journal, drawn from a photo of a totem found deep in Maka territory, a ring with 3 lines inside it, a gateway. That night he dreamed of fire and black roots growing through the sky. He woke with blood on his fingertips, though there were no wounds. The next day, his compass spun in slow circles, and then just before sunset, he saw it, a figure at the edge of the woods, tall, shaggy, watching him from the trees. Caleb called out. It didn't move, but when he approached, it left something behind, not footprints, but scorched earth, shaped like a spiral. In the center, a small stone, warm to the touch and pulsing faintly. He should have left then. Instead, he followed, and somewhere beneath the trees, the forest swallowed him whole. The light faded as Caleb moved deeper into the forest, and the temperature dropped sharply. He didn't remember when the trees began to change, when their bark turned black and their leaves glowed faintly with an eerie green shimmer. The stone in his pocket grew heavier, warmer, as if guiding him. He should have turned back. Every instinct screamed it, but something pulled him forward, not just curiosity, but something deeper, a calling. That's when he saw it, the same stone ring that Elena would one day find, partially buried in the forest floor, covered in moss and roots, but unmistakable, carved with glowing symbols that thrummed like a heartbeat. As Caleb approached, the forest itself seemed to hold its breath. Then he stepped into the ring. The world turned inside out. He was falling, not through space, but through memory. Visions flashing in his mind like lightning strikes. An ancient battle, beings of light and shadow locked in conflict, a gate sealed at great cost, and something waiting beyond it. Something that had once been imprisoned. He landed on soft earth beneath a crimson sky. The trees here spiraled upward like tendrils. Rivers of light flowed through the air. Time felt slow, stretched, and wrong. It wasn't just another place. It was between places, a realm of echoes. Caleb wandered for what felt like days, though he never grew hungry or tired. He heard whispers in the wind, saw flickers of creatures that darted between the trees, some beautiful, some monstrous. The stone in his pocket pulsed more intensely near certain places, especially near the strange crystal obelisks scattered like ruins throughout the land. Eventually, he came to a cliff's edge where a shattered tower loomed in the distance. And there, standing in his path, was the Guardian. Bigfoot, though that name didn't fit here. Here it was something older, a being of fur and shadow and moonlight. Its eyes held sorrow and fire. "You are not meant to be here," it said, not with its mouth, but directly into Caleb's mind. "But you carry the mark." Caleb didn't understand. "You have touched the stone," the voice echoed. "Now it binds to you. The prison weakens. The key remembers its maker." Caleb clutched the stone. The tower in the distance shuddered, and from its broken top, something massive stirred. "What is that?" Caleb asked aloud. "The reason I remain," the Guardian said. "The forgotten god, waking." Then the earth shook, and something screamed across the void, its voice like rusted metal and breaking bones. Caleb stood frozen as the scream echoed across the land, long, guttural, and impossibly far away, yet close enough to make his bones vibrate. The Guardian didn't flinch. It watched the horizon, silent and still, as if listening to something Caleb couldn't hear. "What was that?" Caleb asked again, breath catching in his throat. "The first prisoner," the Guardian replied, voice heavy with memory, "and I am the last lock." It turned, and for the first time, Caleb saw it clearly. It was tall, taller than any human, but not grotesque. Its form was natural, like a creature shaped by wind and time. Its fur shimmered slightly, as if reflecting the light of this strange realm. Woven through the hair on its arms were totems, small carved stones and bones bound with leather. Symbols, wards. "I was once a shaman," the Guardian said, "a man like you, before the veil was sealed." Caleb felt his knees go weak. "You're human?" "I was, long ago, when the old world still spoke in magic." It led Caleb through a grove of trees that bent away from them, revealing an ancient pathway of obsidian slabs. Along the edges were worn carvings, creatures of myth, portals, and battles. At the path's end was a pool of silver water, calm and mirror-like. In the earliest days, this place was a bridge between realms. Spirits, gods, beasts, and mortals moved freely, but freedom birthed greed, and something crawled through that was never meant to exist. We called it Nith Rakal, the hunger that walks. The silver water rippled, and in it Caleb saw flashes, an immense serpentine being cloaked in shadow and teeth. It devoured memories, reshaped dreams. It had no true form, only desire. It took entire worlds, fed on the souls of those who crossed the veil. We trapped it here, beneath the tower, bound it with 7 stones of power, hidden in both worlds. Caleb looked down at the one in his pocket. "You carry one of them." The Guardian nodded solemnly. "You awakened the bond. The seal weakens, and the others will feel it. There are others now, creatures twisted by Nithrakal's hunger, veil walkers, corrupted and cunning, if they find the stones before you do." The implication hung heavy in the air. "But why me?" Caleb asked. "Because your blood remembers. Your line is old, one of the 7 who first sealed the gate. You were drawn here by fate or design." A long pause. "I can guide you, protect you, but I cannot leave this realm. My place is here until the last seal breaks or the hunger is destroyed." Caleb stared at the silver pool as the reflection of the tower trembled again. "So what now?" The Guardian looked down at him with eyes like dying stars. "Now, we find the others, before it does." The Guardian led Caleb to the edge of the grove, where a broken monolith stood, half swallowed by vines. It was inscribed with a star-shaped map, 7 points connected by glowing lines, pulsing like veins. One point pulsed brightest, the stone Caleb carried. "The stones of binding were scattered across the Veil realms," the Guardian said. "Some fell into wild places, some into ruin, and some into worse." The Guardian's hand hovered over the monolith, and a line of light extended from Caleb's stone to a second point. "The next lies in the hollow of mourning," it said, "a place twisted by sorrow. We must move quickly. Corruption spreads." They traveled for what felt like days, through fields where glass grew like grass, across rivers that flowed skyward, and beneath trees that whispered in tongues Caleb didn't understand. Shadows followed them at a distance. The Guardian warned him not to look back. At night, Caleb dreamed of Elena, her voice calling to him through static and fog. Each time he woke, his grip on the stone tightened. He had to stay ahead of the darkness. Finally, they reached it, a valley choked in mist, littered with statues of people frozen in expressions of grief. Dozens of them, lifelike and weather-worn. "They are not stone," the Guardian said. "They are memories, devoured and discarded." At the center of the valley was a tree, black as coal, with limbs like skeletal fingers. Buried at its roots was the second stone, glowing faintly beneath the ground. Caleb stepped forward. That's when the Whisperborn came. They emerged from the fog, humanoid but wrong, featureless faces, joints that bent the wrong way. They moved like smoke, and their voices were mimicries of others. Elena's voice calling his name from a dozen throats. The guardian roared, shaking the ground. Glyphs along its arms ignited, and it charged into the fray, buying Caleb time. He dropped to the tree's base and dug with his hands until his fingers bled. When he touched the stone, a pulse of light exploded outward, knocking the Whisperborn back and splitting the tree in two. Caleb held the second stone. Its warmth was deeper now, sinking with the first. He could feel their connection, one step closer to the whole. The guardian returned, wounded but standing. "You are stronger than you know," it rumbled. "But every stone you claim wakes it further. The hunger stirs." As they fled the hollow, black clouds boiled over the valley. The statues began to weep. Only 5 stones remained. And Nithrakal was watching. They didn't rest after leaving the hollow of morning. Caleb could feel the second stone humming with urgency in his pack, almost as if calling to its siblings. The guardian grew quieter, more distant, as if it too sensed what stirred in the dark spaces between realms. Each stone they sought was bound to a different realm, each shaped by the fragment of emotion that helped seal Nithrakal: hope, rage, grief, love, fear, joy, and sacrifice. 2 were found, grief and sacrifice. That left 5. They climbed the splintered peak of a mountain that roared with constant thunder. The Spire Realm was forged from broken promises, jagged cliffs that hovered in midair, glowing cracks in the stone pulsing like veins. Here rage was law. Caleb's emotions were tested. The realm fed on his anger, his bitterness toward his missing father, his guilt over dragging Elena into his obsession. At the peak, a trial awaited. A monstrous version of himself, forged from fury and shadow. Caleb fought, not with fists, but by choosing mercy. The moment he dropped his blade and embraced the shadow, the illusion cracked. The stone of rage appeared, floating in the air, encased in flame. He seized it and felt it burn into his soul. The next stone lay beneath a black lake so still it reflected not just images, but secrets. Caleb and the guardian entered together, diving into a watery void where there was no up or down. Shapes moved in the dark, things with too many eyes and not enough shape. In the depths, Caleb saw visions. Elena's lifeless body, the guardian breaking apart, himself becoming the hunger. But he pushed through, choosing faith over fear. At the bottom of the mirror deep, clutched in the hands of a drowned version of himself, he found the stone of fear, cold and sharp. When he surfaced, the guardian was waiting, but its eyes lingered longer than usual. "You've seen more than you were meant to," it murmured. Here the world was unnaturally beautiful. Flowers that shimmered with bioluminescence, vines that sang when brushed, trees made of crystal. It felt like a memory of something lost. This was the hardest realm, not because of danger, but temptation. Caleb found the ghost of his mother here. She smiled, spoke to him, touched his hand, but she was not real. A construct of the realm itself, feeding on longing. "You could stay," she whispered. "Forget the stones. Be whole again." He almost said yes, but when he turned away, the illusion crumbled, and the stone of love revealed itself beneath a flowerbed of ash. He didn't look back. The next place was the most deceptive. A carnival of color and light, laughter ringing through endless corridors of mirrors and floating lanterns. Caleb smiled for the first time in what felt like weeks, until he noticed no one else was real. Joy, when stolen, becomes poison. He nearly forgot his mission, lulled into eternal celebration. The guardian had to pull him from the hollow's grip, shouting ancient words that tore the illusions apart. In the center ring, beneath a carousel of singing masks, lay the stone of joy, glowing with a golden light, trembling in his hand. He wept when he picked it up. 5 stones, 2 remain, hope, and the final keystone, hidden beneath the tower where the hunger waits. But as they crossed the veil toward the next realm, the sky cracked. Something had breached the seal, and Elena, somehow, was already there. The moment Elena crossed the stone ring at Crescent Lake, the forest dissolved into silence. Then a falling sensation like plummeting through a dream. Color bled sideways. Her body felt stretched, weightless, unmoored, and then impact. She awoke beneath a sky split by floating islands and flickering auroras. The trees grew upside down and rivers curved in loops through the air. She stood in the threshold of a realm that defied logic, heart-pounding. Something deep in her chest pulled. A tether, not to a place but a person. Caleb. Elena navigated the impossible terrain with raw instinct and the strange guidance of the bandana Caleb had left behind. It was glowing faintly now, reacting to the air around her. As she climbed through dream ruins and whispering stone fields, the realm bent to her presence, sometimes welcoming, sometimes resisting. At one point, she passed through a glade of mirrors, each reflecting different versions of herself. In one, she was old; in another, lost; in another, monstrous. But she kept going, until the sky turned blood orange and the ground trembled beneath her feet. She emerged at the edge of a ridge, overlooking a valley where 5 beams of light met at a central point. And standing there, illuminated in that convergence, was Caleb, older, changed, clutching a staff woven with glowing stones. The guardian stood beside him, battle-worn but still proud. Caleb turned, his eyes locked with hers. "Elena?" he whispered, disbelieving. "How?" She ran to him, collapsing into his arms. For a moment, the war around them fell silent. "You idiot," she said into his shoulder. "You were supposed to be gone 2 days, not open a door to another dimension." He laughed, the sound raw and half-broken. "I thought I was protecting you by staying away, but this place, it needs both of us." Behind them, the sky split again. Dark wings blotted out the light. A scream echoed across the world, a sound they both knew now. Nith Rockall was coming. Caleb turned to her, solemn. "The final stone is buried beneath the hunger's prison, and I can't reach it alone." Elena stepped forward, eyes fierce. "Then let's finish this, together." As night fell across the broken realm, the guardian led Caleb and Elena to a forgotten place, a stone amphitheater half swallowed by vines and silence. At its center burned a black flame, flickering without heat or sound. "This is the archive," the guardian said. "Here, memory is preserved not in words, but in truth." He motioned for them to sit, and when they did, the flame surged. Their minds were pulled into vision. In the time before time, when the veil was young, the realms were raw and boundless. Thoughts became matter, emotions shaped reality, and consciousness flowed freely between dimensions. From this primal chaos, the first sentients emerged, the weavers, beings who could shape worlds with dreams. 7 of them came together to build balance between realms, binding emotions into stones to stabilize the growing chaos. But in their weaving, they made a mistake. They reached too deep. They found something ancient, not evil, but empty. A presence that did not create, did not love, did not even hate. It consumed. It had no name at first. It was not a being, but a hunger, an instinct, primordial and pure. Where it moved, memory vanished, identity unraveled. Entire civilizations fell into it, and no one remembered they had ever existed. To stop it, the 7 weavers gave up their forms. They sealed it in a prison between the Veil realms, forging 7 stones from their own essences, each infused with an emotion that the hunger could not feel. Grief, love, fear, rage, joy, hope, sacrifice. Bound by these stones, the hunger was trapped in a void where it could not feed. But that void has thinned. The world above, Caleb and Elena's world, forgot magic, forgot the weavers, forgot even the veil itself. That forgetting weakened the stones, and as the emotions that created them faded from the hearts of mortals, the prison began to crumble. Now the hunger stirs. It has learned to mimic, to seduce, to offer peace by devouring pain, memory, and truth. But always, it lies. The vision faded. Elena and Caleb sat in silence, the echoes of what they'd seen still rattling inside them. "So it doesn't just kill," Elena whispered. "It erases." "Yes," the guardian said. "It wants a world without suffering. But to do that, it must consume all meaning. Caleb clutched the 5 stones at his side. Then we give it what it cannot swallow. And what's that? Elena asked. Caleb met her gaze. A heart that remembers and refuses to forget. The guardian stood at the threshold of a vast chasm where the sky bled upward into an endless spiral of shadow. Beneath it, the ground dissolved into mist, and beyond that, nothingness. No sound, no wind, only a pull, cold and deep. This is the Maw, the guardian said, the place between, the prison of Nith Rakal. Elena swallowed. And the final stone? The guardian pointed to the abyss. It lies in its heart. You must go alone. I cannot follow. Caleb took Elena's hand. Together they stepped into the void. They fell, not down, but inward, through layers of broken memories. Caleb glimpsed his childhood, distorted and rewound, his mother calling his name over and over. Elena saw flashes of herself in places she'd never been, her first heartbreak, her last goodbye. Here time did not matter. Identity was paper thin. Nithrakal was near. It spoke not with words but with sensation, a warm embrace, the comfort of forgetting, the siren pull of release. Why carry pain? Give it to me. Be light, be free. I can make you whole. They landed in a chamber of mirrors. Each mirror reflected not their faces, but lives without loss. Caleb with their father laughing by the lake. Elena in a life where Caleb never vanished. The final stone floated in the center, a pale shard shaped like a teardrop, pulsing faintly. It radiated hope, not comfort, but defiance. A belief that tomorrow matters, even when today breaks you. The mirrors began to crack. The hunger surged from the walls, a tide of formless shadow, stitched with forgotten names and dead voices. Its shape was impossible. It had worn the faces of gods and beasts. It knew every weakness they had ever buried. Give me the stone. A voice echoed throughout. Caleb stepped forward. No, the hunger screamed, not with sound, but by taking. It tore into him, trying to pull out his memories, his name, the image of Elena's face. But Caleb held on, and Elena stepped beside him. Together they raised the stones, each one ignited. Grief, rage, fear, love, joy, sacrifice, and now hope. The stones became a crown of light. The chamber shattered. The hunger roared, but it could not touch them, not while they remembered, not while they loved. Caleb opened his arms, and the stones sank into his chest, fusing into a single pulse of radiant, burning light. With Elena's hand in his, he remembered everything: the lake, the loss, the journey, the fight, and the choice. You end here, he said, and the hunger was undone. They awoke on the shores of Crescent Lake. The sun was rising. The world was still whole. The veil sealed once more, but not forgotten. Not by them. When Caleb and Elena awoke on the mossy shore of Crescent Lake, the sun was just cresting the Olympic mountains, painting the water gold. The wind was gentle, and the world felt impossibly still. But it was not the same world. Birdsong returned slowly, as though the forest had been holding its breath. The trees leaned closer, their branches heavier, older. Crescent Lake shimmered, more reflective than it should have been, like a boundary that now remembered what it once guarded. Caleb could feel the stones no longer, but something inside him had changed. He remembered everything: the realms, the guardian, the sacrifice of the weavers, and more than that, he remembered every soul the hunger had tried to erase. Names came to him in dreams, people that had never existed in the waking world. But now, they did. Every night, Caleb recorded them. Their stories, their songs, their existence. He became a kind of chronicler, part historian, part keeper of forgotten truths. Sometimes he'd walk the edge of the lake and see ripples with no source. The guardian never returned, but Caleb swore he could still hear its voice when the wind moved just right. Elena felt it too, that haunting pull. She was different now, sharper, quieter. She could sense when people were close to forgetting, important things, painful things. She became a therapist, of all things. But her work was strange, focused. She helped people hold on to what mattered, really hold on. She never spoke of the hunger. But she kept a small shard of mirror from the hunger's realm in her desk. It never reflected her face, only flickers of others. Sometimes it wept. In the months after their return, strange phenomena bloomed across the Olympic Peninsula. Entire patches of forest regrew overnight. Old folk songs returned to local tongues that no one remembered teaching. People reported dreams of vast cities beneath lakes, of voices singing in lost dialects, of glowing stones in the sky, and always, always, the feeling of being watched. Not with malice, but with remembrance. Some hikers vanished near Crescent Lake. Others returned claiming they'd spoken with a tall figure of stone and flame. Whispers of the veil began to spread. One night, almost a year to the day since their return, Elena woke to find Caleb standing outside, staring at the water. "It's waking again," he said softly. She didn't argue. She just stepped beside him and looked into the lake. The reflection looking back at them wasn't theirs. It was older, wiser, and smiling. A year passed, then two. Caleb and Elena kept their promise, to remember, to remain watchful. But even vigilance fades when the world around you insists on normalcy. Hikers returned, the rangers reopened old trails, the Crescent Lake region became popular again. Tourists came, took selfies by the water, and left without noticing how the mist never fully burned away, even on the hottest afternoons. But on the third spring, something changed. She was born beneath a moonless sky in a hospital near Port Angeles. No complications, no signs of anything unusual, except she didn't cry. She just stared, wide-eyed, silent, and watching. As she grew, the strangeness deepened. She spoke late, but when she did, her first word wasn't mama or dada. It was guardian. Her parents, ordinary hikers who had met on a trail by Crescent Lake, brushed it off. Kids say weird things. But the child drew the guardian perfectly again and again. She sang lullabies no one had taught her, in a language no one remembered. Sometimes animals gathered at her window, sometimes lights flickered when she cried. And on the night of her third birthday, she stood by the lake alone and whispered, "The hunger left something behind." Far away, Caleb began waking in the middle of the night, heart pounding. He no longer dreamed of the veil. He dreamed of a crack, thin as a hairline fracture, running through the memory of the final seal. And behind that crack, breathing. Elena knew before he told her. She felt it too. A dull ache in her chest where the stone of hope had once pulsed. Something was shifting, reawakening. But this time it wasn't reaching for them. It was reaching for her, the child who remembered what it never lived. The guardians who thought their journey was over. The world that forgot, now beginning to remember. The veil is stirring, and in the shadows between stories, something new is watching. Thanks so much from Cryptid Monologues for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. And hey, while you're here, check out these videos. You'll definitely love them. See you in the next one.